Imagine it's February 1973. You're in a record store, and among the standard rock releases, you see a sleeve with a stark, alienating geometric design and a name that feels more like an invitation to a secret society, the Blue Öyster Cult. Just 1 year prior, this band from Long Island had released a debut album that critics hailed as intelligent heavy metal, a sophisticated blend of occult imagery and high-energy riffs. But as any musician will tell you, the debut is the easy part. It's the accumulation of your entire life up to that point. The sophomore effort is where the real pressure sets in. Tyranny and Mutation wasn't just a follow-up. It was a deliberate attempt to heavy up their sound and deepen a mystique that would define them for decades. The story of this album is one of manic intensity, cryptic collaborations, and the birth of an iconic rock mythology. To understand how they got there, we have to look at the environment in which the album was forged. By late 1972, the band was essentially living on the road, writing the material for their second record during the tour for their debut. This road-hardened edge translated directly into the music. When they finally entered Columbia Studios in New York City in late 1972, they weren't looking to repeat themselves, they were looking to mutate. One of the most striking things about Tyranny and Mutation before you even drop the needle is its visual identity. The artwork was created by Bill Golick, a singular personality who was also responsible for the band's legendary logo, the Cross of Kronos, based on the symbol for the Greek god and harvester of human life. The logo's hook represents the sickle used by Saturn. Golick, who was reportedly paid $500 for the cover, brought an architectural, almost alienating rigor to the design, influenced by futuristic architects and underground comic art. This was the only album in their entire catalog to include the definitive article "the" in the band's name on the cover, a small detail that added to the feeling of a formal, monolithic presentation. The recording process itself was overseen by the brain trust behind the band, managers and producers, Sandy Pearlman and Murray Krugman. Pearlman wasn't just a producer, he was the de facto propaganda director, infusing the band's lyrics with references to history, warfare, science fiction, and the paranormal. The band was a closet intellectual proposition, a parody of the heavy metal beast that was actually smarter than the genre it inhabited. The album was conceptually divided into two distinct halves, side one titled The Black and side two titled The Red. The black side is where the band leaned into what some critics have called early speed metal, fast, aggressive, and methamphetamine-fueled rock and roll. The opening track, The Red and the Black, sets the pace. It was actually a retitled and re-recorded version of I'm on a Lamb But Ain't No Sheep from the first album. The new version was faster and more propulsive, featuring lyrics that made cryptic references to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Following this is OD'd on Life Itself. A track that showcased the band's ability to mix bluesy riffs with dark monarchy shadings. It was a collaborative effort, with Joe Bouchard contributing the chords for the final build-up. The centerpiece of the side, however, is the album's only single, Hot Rails to Hell. Written and sung by bassist Joe Bouchard. The song came together in a mere hour, but its origins were deeply personal and unsettling. The track was written about a slick promoter from the band's early days named Phil King, a man who had booked the cult when no one else would. King was tragically murdered in a gambling dispute shortly before the song was written. The true spark for the song's title and imagery came from a chilling subway ride. Joe Bouchard was riding in a subway car number 1277 with the band's artist Bill Golick returning from a jazz concert in the city. At a time when graffiti was rampant, Joe looked up and saw the name King sprayed in vibrant red paint on the inside of the car. Coming just days after Phil King's murder, the sight was a pretty scary reminder of their lost friend. While Sandy Pearlman originally suggested the B-movie-inspired title Hot Rods to Hell, it was Buck Dharma who suggested changing it to Hot Rails, forever linking the song to that haunting train ride. The black side concludes with a sprawling 7 screaming and dizzbusters. Clocking at 7 minutes, it features a long psychedelic jam session and some of the band's most abstruse lyrics. While the diz has been humorously debated as a sexual double entendre, the song is deeply tied to Sandy Pearlman's Imagino's mythology. It references a Les Invisibles and features a famous live outro where Eric Bloom would ad-lib "Lucifer the Light, I Can't Stand the Light," a line that connects directly to the character Des Nova. When you flip the record over the red side, the atmosphere shifts. The aggressive hard rock in the first half gives way to a more varied sound, incorporating elements of folk, soul, and even funk. The side begins with "Baby Ice Dog,"
No, I could not assist. Baby, I went.
a significant track because it marks the first lyrical contribution from legendary punk poetess Patti Smith. At the time, Smith was in a relationship with keyboardist Alan Lanier. By her poetic way, the band even asked her to join at one point, but she chose to pursue her own career instead of contributing poems that the band set to music. "Baby Ice Dog" is a punchy bluesy track that opens with the brusque line, "I had this bitch you see, she made lies to me." Next is "Wings Wetted Down."
In the air.
Perhaps the most metal song on the album due to its dark Black Sabbath-esque quality. Joe Bouchard wrote the music and lyrics, admitting later that he freely adapted some of the imagery from Spanish poet Pablo Neruda. The song uses haunting minor key melodies to evoke images of a vampire's transformation, a theme that Joe and Buck Dharma would return to frequently in the band's career. Teen Archer follows a collaboration with another Crawdaddy contributor, Richard Meltzler, a track characterized by its funky ambience and demonstrates the band's willingness to experiment with broader dynamic shifts. The album closes with "Mistress of the Salmon Salt, Quicklime Girl," a song that has puzzled and fascinated fans for 50 years. Written by Albert Bouchard and Sandy Pearlman, lyrics are a masterclass in menacing ambiguity. It tells the story of a quicklime girl who piles her trade in the Garden District with fertile graves existing within a mile of Juke Joint. Many interpret the song as an oblique vampire narrative with the girl harvesting life and death in a way that transcends human norms. Despite the sheer quality of the music, the path to Tyranny and Mutation wasn't without its challenges. Contemporary reviews were actually quite mixed. While Rolling Stone called them one of the best bands in America, other critics were less kind. Mike Saunders of Phonograph Records found the album a real disappointment compared to the debut, and British critic Ian MacDonald was particularly harsh toward the crass Satan speed and sadism of the lyrics. Furthermore, the album struggled to find a foothold on the charts. It peaked at number 122 on the Billboard 200, and the single "Hot Rails to Hell" failed to chart entirely. At the time, Blue Öyster Cult was still very much an underground phenomenon, often misunderstood by the mainstream press. Their habit of littering lyrics with mysterious symbols and references, including the umlaut over the O, which was Sandy Pearlman's idea, even led to false rumors and crypto-Nazi accusations, which the band consistently denied, noting that many members and collaborators were Jewish. However, the mercurial nature of the band is exactly what has given Tyranny and Mutation its staying power. Over the decades, it has been reevaluated as a classic, the molten second chapter of what fans call the Black and White trilogy. Comprising their first 3 albums, it represents a moment where the band was quickly becoming something very imposing, refining their mix of twisted riffs and vague imagery. In the grand arc of Blue Öyster Cult's history, Tyranny and Mutation is the bridge between the raw beginnings and the massive commercial success that would come later. It remains a testament to their commitment to being intelligent in a genre that didn't always value it. As Joe Bouchard later reflected, the band didn't orient themselves towards being a commercial. They were crazy and often made decisions that were anti-commercial. Whether you were singing about Canadian Mounties, murdered promoters, or ghoulish girls in quicklime, Blue Öyster Cult on this record proved they were masters of the macabre. They showed that real world was bizarre enough and that the most terrifying monsters aren't waiting in the shadows. They're a mirror reflection of our own capacity for darkness. So next time you hear that chugging riff of Hot Rails to Hell or the eerie organ of 7 Screaming Disbusters, remember that you're not just listening to a rock song, you're listening to a mutation, a high-concept countercultural piece of theater that dared to bring wit and mystery to the heavy metal beast. Now sadly, this brings my Blue Öyster Cult series to a close, but I have a poll on my channel talking about what will be the next band that I will be doing, and it will be between Stone Temple Pilots, yes, Deep Purple, and King's X. It appears that Deep Purple has been in the lead, so that will most likely be the next video on this channel. But in the meantime, check out this playlist of Blue Oyster Cult reviews, which should be complete at this point. Thanks for watching. Please like the video. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews and rankings and more. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.